Good. Okay, Yehoshua. So, in answer to Charlie's question, it's true that most of Tanakh is really bad. There are a few exceptions to that. The first one is Yehoshua. Yehoshua is a beautiful book. Yehoshua is wonderful, right? Yehoshua is so wonderful because it is the book where nobody messes up, right? What? Yeah, no Jews mess up. Jews don't mess up. How many people mess up in Sefer Yehoshua?
0.
No. One person. Right? One person really messes up. Right? One person really messes up. Right? But Yehoshua is a pretty idyllic book as things go, which is a bit funny. Right? It's a bit funny that that's the case. Because it doesn't start off so promising. Right? It doesn't start off so promising. What do I mean? Let's try to get a snapshot. Okay, let's first do a bit of a summary. Okay, let's summarize Yehoshua very quickly. What is Yehoshua? How does it go? Just basic summary. Moshe dies. That's the end of the Torah. Yehoshua is appointed leader. That's how we start. And then what do we do?
Walks into Israel.
What? Let's just summarize it. Summarize very quickly.
Cross the Yarden.
Cross the Yarden. Fight the wars. Win. Divide the country. Right. That's the book. Right. It's not like a. I'm not trying to trick you here. Right. Yehoshua is a pretty simple book. Right. Moshe dies. Yehoshua is appointed leader. They cross the Yarden. I mean, yes. There's a little bit more, obviously. They send spies, they find out that everyone's afraid, they go in, they have a miraculous first war, then in the second war, one person sins. They catch him, they punish him, and then nobody else apparently sins in all of Yehoshua, right? And then they win the wars, and then they divide up the country. Okay, they made a global mistake with Givonim, fine, right?
What was that?
Right, the Givonim, right, people, right, they're of the 7 nations, they pretend not to be the 7 nations, but what's their mistake? They were too hasty in making a treaty with the Givonim, so, right, they end up making them slaves, right, but like, the book is pretty idyllic as things go, right?
This parsha talks about slavery.
Which is sort of strange. Why is that strange? Tell me why it's strange. Why does that strike you as weird?
What?
That it's like such a happy book.
God told Moshe everything's going to do what he's
Well, first of all, yeah, God said everything's going to go terribly, but also, like,
it's never happened before.
Yeah, like Moshe was the greatest leader ever, and then Yehoshua, who's not Moshe, right? That's all we can basically say. He's not Moshe. He has all of one person mess up, and that person ends up confessing his sin when Yehoshua asks him to. They put him to death. And then everybody else is fine. Like, how is he so successful?
We're not scared when we got.
What?
Those people that were just hearing the speech, they were probably scared.
Really? In the Torah, when like Moshe kills all the people who did the Egel, and then they end up messing up with Korach and the Meraglim, and they complain about water and food and water, and then at the end of the Torah, they complain about food and water again?
Like, I'm just saying it's that segment, it's still the same generation of people that were in Zirirng.
Yeah, but they messed up with Moshe. They were the same people.
They were punished for 40 years. They killed out that generation.
Well, okay. So this is something that Rabbi Chaim Angel points out. At some level, okay. First of all, why is this strange? This is strange because Yehoshua is so much not Moshe, right? That you open up, I mean, just look at the beginning of Yehoshua. Vahi acharei mot Moshe eved Adonai, vayomer el Yehoshua ben Nun mishared Moshe lemor. Right? Just think about that first pasuk. It was after Moshe died, who is God's servant. Yehoshua, who is Moshe's servant, takes over. Right? Do you understand how intense that first pasuk is? It's like we go from the Eved of God to the Eved of God. Right? Like that is the transfer. Right? That is the transfer of power. It's quite stark. Right? And then just to drive in how not confident Yehoshua is in his success, if you go through the first few psukim, he says, "Moshe avdi mate." Moshe is dead. Right? It's like he's just digging it in. Moshe is dead. So you go, and then what does he tell him?
Everywhere we go, I'll give what I promised Moshe.
Good. Then pasuk vav, chazak ve'ematz, Be strong. Pasuk Zayin. Rak chazak ve'ematz me'od. Be very, very strong. Meaning, how many times, right? This is like if I tell you it's going to be okay. No, it's really going to be okay. Don't worry. I'm going to be there for you. Don't worry. I'm there. And then what happens? Right? A few psukim later.
Be strong.
No, not quite.
Yes.
Right? Everybody else says to him what? The people say to him.
You're not Moshe.
No, they don't say that. Right? Right? They also give him a pep talk. Don't worry. I mean, this is, by the way, the least encouraging thing I've ever heard. Right? They say to him, we are going to be with you as we were with Moshe. Oy vey. Right? That is honestly, really? Right? Except, and then, look, skip to Pasuk Tet Zayin. Vayanu et Yosher lemor, kol asher tivadenu nasev, et kol asher tishlachanu nelech. Whatever you say, we'll do. Wherever you send us, we'll go. Kechol asher shamanu al Moshe, ki nishma elecha. As much as we listen to Moshe. If I was hearing that, I'd be like, oh, this is not gonna end well. Right? Raki Hashem Elokecha imach asher Moshe. God will be with you like it was Moshe. Kol ish shamred bicha v'lishmad v'recha kol asher tivenu yumat. And anyone who doesn't listen will be put to death. Rak chazak v'amatz. Don't worry about it. 3 times in one parak, the people and God have to say it's okay. Just calm down. Right? Be strong. Right? And we're going to be with you like Moshe. And you're like, oh, really? That's how this is going to go? And then what happens?
They don't sin.
It's beautiful. Mamish, the book is beautiful. Nothing happens. Right? It's totally idyllic. Right? Literally, one person messes up really badly. And then even him, Yehoshua asks him, please confess. And he does it. Right? It's mind-boggling. So, Rabbi Chaim Angel has this nice vort that if you want to understand Yehoshua and why it's so idyllic, so you got to think about it this way. The way he frames it is Gemara in Brachot. Gemara in Brachot says that Moshe tells the Jewish people, Ma Hashem Elokecha shoel imach. What does God want from you? Ki im liyarauto. He just wants you to fear Him, love Him, keep all the Torah. Right? And the Gemara says, whoa, v'chi milta zutrasahi. And that's a small thing. Right? I mean, what does God want for you? Nothing. Just keep the whole Torah and fear Him and love Him and cling to Him and, just do everything. That's it. And what does the Gemara say? If you have it, it's not a big deal. I mean, Moshe was perfect. Right? What?
The Gemara says for Moshe.
Yeah. So for Moshe, he's perfect. So he thought it wasn't a big deal. Right? Yeah. But what about Yehoshua? He's not perfect. He's not perfect. Right, how do I know he's not perfect?
He's not Moshe.
So first of all, he's not Moshe. But there's a fascinating midrash in Kohelet Rabbah that points out that the first Yehoshua, before he becomes leader, has all of 2 speaking roles in Tanakh. Right?
Yes. So the Meraglim?
Meraglim is, no, yeah.
And on Personal.
Well, before that. No, before Meraglim, he has 2 other speaking roles. That's his third. You're right, he has 3 speaking roles.
Does he speak on the Meraglim?
He does, yes. Sort of, afterward. I mean, he doesn't really speak. We know he joins Kole, fine. He has 2 real speaking roles. What are they?
Har Sinai.
Har Sinai and
Korah.
And Eldad Umeidad. Right? Eldad Umeidad. So let's go through them quickly. Right? At Har Sinai, what happens? Moshe comes down during the Egel. He says to Yehoshua, what do you hear? And what does he say?
It's the...
I hear war. Right? And what does Moshe tell him? Lo kol anot gvura, v'lo kol anot chulusha, kol anot ani shomea. That's not war. That's not the strong and the weak. That's just yelling. Right? That's just an orgy. Right? That's what's going on. Right? It's just chaos down there. Right? Second time we meet him is Eldad and Meidad. Eldad and Meidad, what happens? They try to get 72 members of Sanhedrin, right, to prophesy. Eldad and Meidad prophesy in the camp. Yehoshua runs, or the Nar runs to Moshe and says, Adoni Moshe Kla'im, right, put them in prison, stop them. And what does Moshe say? Why would I do that? Umi ten kol Hashem neviim. So the Midrash points out that Yehoshua is really not perfect. In fact, the Torah goes out of its way that the first two speaking roles he has, he's wrong. Right? That is literally the only thing we know about him, is that every time he opens his mouth, Moshe shuts him down. Right? Right? That's the Midrash. And the Midrash then says that's why all the Jews panicked and said, Oy Gewalt, Moshe is the sun and Yehoshua is the moon. Right? What?
That was a praise.
No, it's Moshe is the real thing and he's a pale reflection. So Rabbi Angel says, so then why is Yehoshua such an idyllic book?
Because they're just trying.
They think they have to read themselves. They don't have a Moshe.
So that would be one thing, but he has a sharper way of reading it, which is, think about it. Imagine Melchemet Ha'ai had happened under Moshe Rabbeinu. What would have happened? Right? I mean, the Jews had lost a war that God had sent them to. Right? What would the Jews have done under Moshe?
They would flip out.
They would have flipped out. Right? Why don't they flip out in Yehoshua? More.
Makes mistakes.
More precisely.
There with God. It's not.
Because Yehoshua yells at God. Because Yehoshua is like them. Right? They don't need to act up with Yehoshua because Yehoshua is human. And therefore when they lose a war, Yehoshua panics and turns to God and said, what are you doing? They don't need to complain to Yehoshua. Yehoshua is already out there complaining, not because they asked him to complain, but because he's human, unlike Moshe. Right? What? Right? And therefore, Yehoshua has this idyllic leadership. And the end, and Sefer Yehoshua, right, we go through this, he conquers them, right, he conquers the enemies, he divides up the land, and then you go to Pasuk, go all the way to the end of the book, right, go all the way to the end of the book. Now he's an old man, right, he gives them chizuk, v'chazaktem me'od, keep the Torah, etc., etc., and then he, in Perek Chav Daled, he does a new Kabbalah HaTorah. Right? He has them, right? He gives them like a Musar Shmuz and they re-accept the Torah. Right? It's like a beautiful end. Like it's not just like in his lifetime. At the end he's getting old. He calls them together, gives them chizuk. They re-accept the Torah. Right? This is like, right, from beginning to end. It's idyllic. Right? And, right, you get this in Perek Chav Daled Pasuk Chav Hey. Right? Or, you know what, we can just, I'll skip around a little bit. Right? Perek Chav Daled Pasuk Tet Zayin is the end of his life. Vayanam vayomer chalil lanu me'azov Adonai lavod elohim acherim. God forbid, we're not leaving God. It's not happening. They commit to God and His Torah all over again. In Pasuk Chav Hey, vayichrot Yehoshua brid la'am vayamahu vayasem l'chokum mishpat b'Shechem. He makes a new brid with them. Right? They accept the Torah. It's like, right, Yehoshua is like, he's just
At ease.
I mean, he's awesome. Right? And then what happens? This is like, and then, you could not get this from Moshe. Remember, what happened at the end of the Torah? Moshe was told by God, what is going to happen as soon as you die? Everything's going to fall apart. And what does not happen? Nothing falls apart. And listen to the difference. You want something striking. Listen to the difference between how Moshe, the last thing Moshe hears before he dies, and the last thing we hear about Yehoshua. Perek Chav Daled Pasuk Lamed Aleph. Va'aya avod Yisrael et Adonai kol yemei Yehoshua v'kol yemei eskenim asher richu yemei macharei Yehoshua v'asher yadu et kol masei Adonai asher asal Yisrael. The Jews kept the Torah for the entire life of Yehoshua and all the Zkenim that followed Yehoshua. I mean, Yehoshua is so successful that even though Moshe was promised that after he dies everything's going to fall apart, Yehoshua and Yehoshua's successors managed to hold it together perfectly. Right? It is like this bizarrely idyllic book that somehow one person sins in the entire book. The one sinner admits his sin before he gets stoned to death. He literally is willing to admit his sin. Right? A few people, okay, they make some bad judgments with the Givonim, but okay. Right? He ends his life with a new Kabbalah HaTorah, and then the Torah tells you, Yehoshua tells you at the end of the book, by the way, the Jews kept the Torah the entire life of Yehoshua and all of his successors, and everything is just great. You're like, Right? So Charlie's like, did we ever have a success? Well, actually, yeah. Somehow, despite everything, Yehoshua is this beautiful book. Right? It's this beautiful, beautiful book.
What's up with the ending there? I thought Yosef's bones.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the closing of the Torah. Remember, we've been carrying his bones around for a heck of a long time. Right? So now we actually get to bury it. Right? That's like a... What? I mean, that because we've been waiting to do this for a long time. I don't know. We have been waiting to do it for whatever. But Charlie, but I'm going to have to burst the bubble here because good. So the theme of Yehoshua is what?
Yeah,
I mean, look. In a nutshell, the story of Yehoshua is the story of how we go into Israel, we conquer Israel, we divide Israel, and it's pretty idyllic. It works. Yehoshua's leadership, for whatever reason, because he's a human role model, they identify with him, they listen to him, they support him, they follow God his whole life, the life of his successors. Right? He's like a beautiful snapshot of what life could look like if only everybody was Yehoshua. Halavai, halavai. Right, that's Yehoshua.
You say he wasn't so great.
Well, that's the irony, right? He's not Moshe, but he's a really successful leader, right? He gets like no pushback, no complaints, right? Even the people, I mean, it's incredible. The guy he literally stones to death listens to him, right? Like it's not just like that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive, right? It's a very idyllic view. What's the problem? Is that it is not true. That Yehoshua is only half the story because Yehoshua hides something. Right? Which is that is not 100% true. Because, and this is what's in the middle of the book. In the middle of the book, what you find out is that you guys all did Lo Sechanim. Right? Why? Right? Good. We've been doing this, I think, right? Lo yeshvu b'artzecha. We have a prohibition in the Torah to let the nations stay in the land because what is going to happen? Dvarim promises us. The Torah promises us that what will happen if you are derelict. Guys, the Torah promises us that if we are derelict and we allow the nations to continue living in Israel, what is going to happen? They're not going to kick us out. They're going to convince us to do Avodah Zarah. And in the latter half of Yehoshua, in the boring parts that no one ever wants to read, which is the dividing up the land, we find out that which Shevet actually bothered to kick out all the nations in their midst? Yehuda. Right? Yehuda did it. And Yosef a bit. But the majority of the Shvatim, what didn't they do? They didn't kick them out. So Yehoshua is a very idyllic book. It really is. Right? It's about how Yehoshua was a great leader and how they conquered Israel miraculously and then divided up, basically without a hitch. And the Jews accept the Torah all over again and therefore they keep the Torah. It's almost idyllic. Right? That's basically Yehoshua, but it hides the downfall, which is the one thing they didn't do was that Yehoshua kept pushing them. Get rid of all the nations that are among you. They didn't. In the time of Yehoshua, that doesn't yet lead to problems. But the one thing that Yehoshua hides is that they don't listen to what God said in Dvarim, which is that if you don't kick out the nations of the land, that it's going to get pretty bad, which leads us to